Hi, I'm Beth, creator of dryitcanit.com. I like to share with you what I've learned about dehydrating and canning vegetables and fruits from your gardens, as well as give you innovative recipes that I've created and like to share those with you. Today is another episode of Fridge Day Friday, and that's where I go through my refrigerator, look at my leftovers, and see what I can do with them. This week was the 4th of July, and like many of you, we had company, and that kind of cleaned out the refrigerator, but it also still left me with some leftovers. So what I have left is about a cup of leftover breakfast sausage. I had used this and mixed this with a bunch of vegetables and served some breakfast burritos one morning. I have literally about a tablespoon of sour cream, which isn't much left to do anything. I have some salad that I had made, which has some lettuce, little shreds of cheddar cheese, and a little bit of green pepper and red onion in it. And I have 2 ears of corn left. So looking at this, with the exception of the lettuce, I thought maybe I could make some kind of a soup, but then I've decided I'm actually going to probably use the lettuce in it also, chop it up. It might not look real pretty, I don't know, but it still uses it up. So I'm also going to add a couple of potatoes that I took out of the pantry, some broth, some chicken broth that I had in the pantry, probably add some garlic, might pull some chives from the garden or some other seasoning, but I'm going to attempt to make some kind of a corn and sausage chowder or corn and sausage soup with this. And I think that will provide us with lunch and should be pretty tasty, I hope. So I'm gonna get started and I'll let you know how that goes. First thing I did was to take the sausage, put it in a pan and heat it back up. It was fully cooked, but I wanted to heat it up and get the grease part of it out and break up the pieces a little bit. Then I'm adding a small onion and a little bit of garlic, and I'm going to cook that until it's translucent. The onions are translucent and the garlic is nice and fragrant. I decided to go ahead and add the lettuce at this point. I decided not to add all of it. I think that would have been too much. So I took a good solid handful and chopped that up finely. And the reason I've decided to add that now is so that this cooks down and wilts. I think if I add it a little bit later, it might tend not to dissolve, so to speak, or I think it'll be bigger flakes. So I'm just going to let this cook down a little bit. I definitely am going to want some kind of green component on this just for looks, and might end up sprinkling some chives on it when I'm done, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to cook this down. The lettuce is wilted. So what I'm going to do now is I have a couple of diced potatoes and the sweet corn that I cut off of the cob. So the potatoes and the corn are both raw and need to be cooked. So I'm going to add that to the sausage and onions and garlic and lettuce. And I'm going to let that cook down. Now as it does this, I might add some chicken broth just to get some moisture in there to cook this down. But I'm going to cover this and let this cook until the potatoes are tender. Actually decided to add chicken broth to this, enough to not cover the vegetables, but certainly to put enough moisture in there to cook this, because I think that to get that corn and those potatoes cooked, I'm going to need that. So now I'm going to let this simmer, a little bit past simmer, for probably about 8 to 10 minutes. My potatoes are just about done. You can see that the liquid I have is not quite up to the top now. And what I want to do is add some milk and a thickener. So what I did is I took about a tablespoon of flour and I added milk and I stirred that up into a paste so that I had no lumps. And that's a really important first step anytime you're going to make a gravy or a thickener. Then I'm going to add more milk to that. I want to add probably about a half a cup of milk or so total, maybe closer to a cup. And then I'm just going to stir that paste into the milk. And by doing it this way, you eliminate the possibility of, or reduce greatly the possibility of having lumps of flour in your gravy or in your soup, is the case here. So I have that all stirred up, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stir that into my mixture here. So my corn, I think, is pretty much cooked. My potatoes are just about cooked, but I know that they're going to be in here a little bit longer. So I'm going to add this, and then this really, because I have the flour, will become a thickener. And I think that I'm going to have a chowder when I'm done here. So this looks pretty good. The lettuce is wilted down. I don't know that it's going to add anything to the soup really, but it's not really going to take away anything. And it does give it a little bit of color, I think, which is good. So I'm going to let this cook for just a few minutes till the flour and the milk kind of come together. Generally, when you're adding flour to something like this, you want to cook it down for at least a minute or two to get rid of that flour taste. So that's my next step here. All right, my chowder is gently boiling, or simmering, I should say. You can see the bubbles. It's just a little bit thicker than I want to have it, so I'm going to add just a little bit more chicken broth to this. I'm going to let that cook in for a couple of minutes, make sure the thickness is where I want it. I'm going to taste it then, and I'm going to add salt and pepper if needed. And then I will be ready for a bowl of soup, I think. So this is looking pretty good. I almost forgot about that sour cream I had. I only had about a tablespoon or so, but I think that that will give it just a little bit of creaminess and a little bit of tartness. So I'm taking that sour cream and stirring that in. I did taste this, and I did add some salt and some pepper. I do think if I had a little bit of red pepper for a little bit of heat, if you wanted that, that would be fine. My husband likes that. I'm not as much of a fan, but I think this looks good. It smells amazing. So let's dish it up and see what we have. Soup looks pretty good. It's got the sausage, the corn, the potato, the sour cream, the lettuce, and we're gonna dish up a little bit of that and see how this tastes. You can see the lettuce in there. And I took and went and got some chives from the garden just for a little bit of green for color. And I think we have a pretty attractive bowl of soup. So as I let this cool a little bit, I was thinking about what else I could have done with today's leftovers. And I think I could have made a sausage gravy, so to speak, and put that on mashed potatoes, had the corn on the side, even off the cob, and a salad on the side. That certainly would have worked. I could have taken the sausage, the lettuce, the mushroom, or no, mushrooms. I could have taken the sausage, the lettuce, and the corn and made a hash out of that, maybe adding some onions, and made a breakfast hash out of that. But I think I'm pretty happy with this. I think this worked out really well. And let's just see what it tastes like. It's cool. I like it. It's actually better than I expected. I'm not gonna say that you taste or don't taste the lettuce. It added a little bit of green to it, but I felt the chives add a little bit more green, a little color to it. The sweetness of the corn comes through. The potatoes are nice and soft. I used Jimmy Dean regular sausage, which has plenty of spice in it, so I generally don't salt or pepper something that I'm working with the sausage until afterwards. But this is really good, and again, no waste. So look in your refrigerator, see what you have for leftovers. If you need some ideas, tell me what you have in your refrigerator. Maybe I can give you a couple of ideas. But this is good. I think this was another save. So dry it, can it, don't waste it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.